Yes. And we also talk about the session. It means the moment user is login, that time you want to create some object, then you can go for a scope as a session. And global session is especially for portlet project, which is not valid for Java project. So totally 5 scope: singleton, prototype, request, session, and global session. These top 4 are going to be used according to your business need, but global session is not part of our Java project. Well,
Okay.
but you could ask me the question between the singleton and prototype. Singleton you understood per instance, but when to use prototype, right? Every time
Right.
when is the necessity where we need our object to be created for each get win request. It's a multi-threading, guys. So you know about
Mhm.
thread, right? In Java we have a
Yes.
multi-threading concept. So multi-threading, what is the main concept of threading? Each thread is working independently, right? If you have a big task, then you are dividing that task into an independent part and then giving the each task to your one thread, right? Let's
Yeah.
say you are using the multi-thread environment and your person class object is required by each thread. So for proceeding with their execution, each thread is required a person class object. But your person class object scope is a singleton. It means what? There is only one object. Each thread have to wait for the person class object. Yes or no? If thread 1 is using the person class, then other thread cannot use that same person class until and unless they are going to release that object. So like this way, if you notice, even though you are using 5 thread, but your person class object is a singleton, it means all thread are waiting for that person class object. And that's where you will not get the benefits of multi-threading. So what is the scope now? In that case, make a scope as a prototype. If you make a scope as a prototype, then each thread is going to have their own person object. They will not wait for each other. Nikhil and Vashvi, understanding or
Yeah.
not?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
So this is very, very important. Many people don't know when to use prototype as a scope. But remember, when you want the independent task to be performed, you want person one object and person two object. Person one and person two objects supposed to be a different, because both thread are using differently. Then don't hesitate to create a prototype. But in 90% case, almost we are having the singleton, which is by default, and that's called the scope of a bean. Any question? Any doubt?
No.
If you
No, sir.
have,
I think
yeah,
unless we practice,
yeah, that is
things
important.
won't get clearer. Yeah.
Yep, yep. You need to. So you need to do that. Okay, fine. So just practice on this. This is important. A scope of a bin. Vasvi, you were saying something?
Nothing.
Okay. Well, guys, so let's move ahead with the further concepts. And what is the further concept in our Spring? So one thing I just want to make sure that XML is not too much important. So you just practice on Java based, and where we'll go quite more deeper in the Java side, Java configuration based, because it is one of the required one. Well, so last class, if you have noticed, okay, so we have a user class. Let me repeat again. We have a ID property, we have a constructor, setters, and getters method. Okay.
Yeah.
For a time being, I'm just going to comment this part. Ignore this for time being. Set ID, get ID. Now, I want to define the bean of this user class. So you remember XML we are not having, we are having the Java. So create one class with any name, annotate that class with the @ of configuration, and whatever bean you want to create, you put that bean. By default, your bean name is the method name itself. but sometimes you need to give a name to your bean, like how I have given in the XML, bean ID equal to something. If you want to give something like that in Java also, you can do so. You can put bean u1, and it's not like that scope is only with XML. Every features which you have noticed under the XML, it is also there. So if you want to change the scope of your bean to a prototype, just put at the rate of a scope annotation and replace this singleton to a prototype. Singleton is by default. Whether you are writing this or not, that not make any sense. But if you want to change the scope of this particular user object, then you have to use the prototype
Right.
along with at the rate of scope annotation. Well,
Okay.
coming to the manager class, as I told you, if you are using a annotation, then this is the class you need to create an object. Annotation config application context. If you are using XML, then you have to use class path XML application context. This class object creation time, you need to pass your configuration class name. My configuration class name is a app config. That's the reason in manager class, while creating a container object, while creating a context object, I'm passing my configuration class object. Now what I'm doing here, I'm using a conditional operator. You know what is conditional operator? Okay, let
No.
me tell you that. So one way is that you can have user u1 equal to comma user dot class, and then after you have a requirement whether user object is null or not. So you are checking u1 equal to null. If it is null, then you are going to print null. Else you want to print okay. Okay, this is
Okay.
your requirement. Pretty simple. We got an object. After that, I'm checking whether user object is null. If it is null,
Mm.
then print this. And if it
Right.
is not null, then print okay. So let's run this program and see whether we are getting okay or not. Yes, we are getting okay. You're also getting cons because under the user.java, I have put one private constructor, and this constructor is, a default constructor. And because of this constructor output, you are able to see under the console
Cons.
cons
Mm.
as well. Clear?
Yeah.
If else is always a not good practice. It is a time consuming time. So to replace this if else, you can write in a single line this conditional operator. It is a
Okay.
replacement of this. Look at this. I'm checking context.getMean u1 equal to null, then print this, else print okay. See,
Oh,
same thing.
right.
This is the syntax you need to remember. Equal to null, question mark. If it is true, then this will be printed. If it is false, then this will be printed. Now go and try running the same program after commenting this. You still get a okay. Yes or no?
Right.
So conditional operator is highly advisable if you have if else kinds of things. Do not go for if else. This is the old way of coding.
Right.
Conditional operator is giving more performance. Well, so you clear annotation based? We are having
Yes.
the class, and with the Java class itself, we are creating an object of my particular class. Let's come to the other example, dbconfig. Before that, I want to create a e-commerce. Let's target the real-time entities. I want to create a e-commerce object, but this e-commerce is having the supplier, product, and category, right? You know that in any Amazon or any e-commerce website, all products are not belongs to a particular company. Like Amazon is not holding all the product, rather than they have a seller, right? You can also register as a seller and you can start selling your product. While selling your product, you have to tell them what kind of product you are selling and under which category this is coming. So supplier will be you, category will be a stationery if you're selling a book or anything. So like this way, you can mention these things. So I have a class categories.java, plain categories.java. I'm not writing lots of business logic to make you confused. It's plain categories.java. We also have supplier.java. We also have product.java. But while creating a product.java, while listing your product over the Amazon, you must have to specify the two property. What is that property? Category, under which category your product is falling, and supplier, who is the supplier or who is the seller.
Okay.
Category and
Yeah.
supplier is having no relationship. Supplier is an independent things, category is an independent class. But product is dependent on these two class, categories and supplier. So in terms of programming language, I can tell while creating a product class, product object, you must have to pass the categories and supplier. That's the reason I put a constructor here. So until or unless you will not pass the categories and supplier object, product will be not created. Because Amazon is saying, if you list some product there, something called, what I can say, mobile. But
Right.
we have a lots of categories there. You can search by category, right? Select mobile, and then after the all mobile is going to be listed. So
Yeah.
if you created a product without categories and without supplier, then customer will be not able to see your product. If I allow the customer to see your product, I will be not able to notify you because you have not given the supplier details. So that's the reason they made a mandatory while listing your product, while creating a product over my website, you must have to pass this two mandatory information, categories and suppliers. Try relating with the complete real time, guys. Then you will get interest to learn things. So
Right.
how we can force the user of product class? Put a constructor. If somebody is trying to create a product class object without passing categories and supplier, they will get a compile time error. You want to check that? Go to manager class and try creating a product object. New product. See, automatically categories and supplier is coming. But if you forcibly tell that, no, I don't want to put this, see, you are getting compile time error. So I have designed my class in such a way that it will force the user, you have to pass supplier and category object. Make sense?
Yeah.
This is called class design, guys. Now, so under the, now while creating a bean, because in the world of a bean, we are not going to create an object like new keyword. Every bean is going to be created by the Spring IOC. So how we can define the same concept in the Spring IOC so that while creating a product class bean, it automatically pass the supplier and category bean. Look at the dbconfig.java. Categories is a independent one, so I have created a bean of categories separately. Supplier is again an independent class, so I have created the bean of supplier independently. But while creating a object of product class, I am also using one more annotation. And what I'm saying, this bean is depends on categories and supplier. So automatically, while creating an object of product class, a Spring will pass, make sure that categories and supplier object have to be created first, then the product object have to be created. That is the reason we have used at the rate of depends on. It's clearly saying that product is depends on category and supplier.
Supplier.
And now while creating a product class object, you are passing the categories and supplier. So now if I run this example, main method here itself, and I'm checking whether product object is created or not. And with the help of product object, I am also calling the get categories, whether product is holding the category or not. This is also a conditional operator kinds of things. If I put it separately, then you will be getting 100%, but right now you might get confused. So I want you to spend some time to understand this, what I'm doing. In high level, we are asking the container give me the product object, and once we have a product object, then I'm calling the get categories, because under my product.java we have a get categories, set categories, get supplier, set supplier. So under the dvconfig.java, once you have a product class object created, you are calling the get categories, making sure get categories is not null. If it is null, then null will be printed. If it is not null, then categories will be printed. And similarly, the supplier will be printed. It means product object is created successfully. Let's run this and see the output. Congratulations. So categories bean is created first, supplier bean is created first, and then product bean is created. And you are also getting categories and supplier. It means it is success. Vashvi, you have some question?
No, no, no. I'm just reading the output.
Oh, I see. Okay, guys. So understood what is the meaning of at the rate of depends. These all things might be required in your project when you are working on project. Also, this is also known as separation of concern. You cannot write everything inside the single class. You will spoil the principle called design principle. Single responsibility principle. What is the meaning of single responsibility principle? Each class should responsible to do their works. You cannot mess up the all things in a single class. That is the reason categories should have their, in categories what could be that? Category ID, category name, category label, all these things you can put into category. Supplier, supplier in the sense supplier ID, supplier name, supplier reputation, supplier rating. You can put all these things in the supplier. Product class having these two along with the product ID, product name, product description, all these things, right? So all these three classes are separate, but somebody is defining a product class. Inside that itself it is saying category, supplier, everything, adding the property, that will be messed up. So that's not recommended. Well, let's move ahead and talk about some other concept here. Now, finally, if you have a product ready, you have a supplier ready, you have a category ready. In fact, I can say if you have a product ready, this is the time you can put into your e-commerce. So now what we have e-commerce, which is holding the all this information: product, supplier, categories, right? Similarly, setters and getters method. But what I did, I have to create a e-commerce object. But while creating a e-commerce object, I found I also have to create an object of product, supplier, and categories. But in this other config, I only have created the e-commerce object. Product, supplier, and categories beans are created in another configuration file, which is a dv config. What is the requirement now? One way is that again create a product, supplier, and category bean under this other config file also. But what you will do now? You will duplicate the code. Unnecessarily, you will be creating product, supplier, categories object again, which is already created in the dv config. Can't we reuse the dv config wala bean under the other config? Answer is yes. Here we go and learn the another annotation called at the rate of import. So you are saying to this other configuration, while creating an e-commerce object, you might need product, supplier, and categories. Product, supplier, and categories I am not creating under this class, rather than I have created in another class, which is a dv config. So I'm just importing that dv config. Whenever you need to check that whether product bin is created or not, whether product bin is defined or not, please go to dv config and look at that whether all the informations are there or not. Your Spring IOC will go there, it will check, okay, wow, it is there. Then it will simply auto ward This is a very, very interesting concept in Spring. Auto wiring. What is auto wiring? Your bean is created some other place and you want to connect your class object with that bean. That is called auto wiring. So whenever your bean is created already, but you want to use here, then you have to put at the rate of auto wired annotation. If you put auto wired annotation, then a Spring container will go to their container and check whether product is created anytime or not. Whoever created doesn't matter. Which class has created doesn't matter. Product object is created or not. If product object is created, then automatically this product will be initialized with that object. Similarly, it found that auto-wire.supplier. It will go to their container. It will check that whether supplier object is created or not. Who has created doesn't matter. In our case, dbconfig has created. But at the end, it is sitting into the single container, which Spring is holding, right? So Spring will go to their container. It will check, oh, supplier object is created. And user is asking me to auto-wire with that. So it will initialize the supplier object also. Similarly, the categories object also. All these informations are pretty neat and clean in the world of Spring. Auto wiring is very, very important. You might be asked in the interview. They can ask you, what is the meaning of auto wiring? You just need to tell if object is created in any other class and if I want to initialize my object without creating a new object, then we are using the auto wiring concept. Understood or not?
Okay.
Yeah.
So now under the manager 2, if I go and run the e-commerce, if auto wiring is working perfectly, if our import is working perfectly, then e-commerce object will be created successfully and I will be able to get the categories here. If I'm getting null or exception, it means what? It means auto wiring doesn't work. But congratulations, you can see that even though you are running the manager 2, even though you have loaded other config, but your bean is created from categories also, supplier also, product also, which is nothing but sitting under the db config. Look at this. Why it's happened? Because we have imported this.
Right. Correct.
Why I have did separation of concern? Because I don't want to spoil the one configuration which is not related. Let's talk about, you have a person, you have a account bean and you have a bank bean. Account is a separate module. Bank is a separate module. My recommendation will be, do not create bank related bean also in the same class and account related bean also in the same class. It will be a confusion. Rather than create account related bean in separate class, bank related bean in separate class. If you want to reuse that, then use the import one. So whoever is coming to check that what are the beans for bank, they will be easily going to that bank class configuration and it will check, okay, these are the bank beans. Getting the point or not, guys?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's very, very important. Okay, so that's the difference between, if you learn these things from a trainer, who is a typical trainer only, they cannot teach you all these things. But I have to review the code of my peers, my juniors, everyone's daily by daily. And I know what is the quality of code, what is the things you need to learn here, what is the meaning of design principle, what is the meaning of clean coding. All this information I'm giving you here. Well, let's move ahead. One more interesting things I want to discuss here is property config.
Okay.
Let's talk about one example. On the top of that, you want to display welcome to the bank SBI. Imagine this is one of the software which is a product and you want to sell this product to many banks, right? You have HDFC, you have SBI, you have a lots of Bank of America, Citibank. There are different banks and you want to sell this product to different banks. Welcome to the SBI can be only for SBI.
Right.
Welcome. If bank change, the message bank name also have to change here. But
Hmm.
if you put here and if you sell this product, somebody is running this, everyone is going to get the welcome to the SBI. Now you sell this product to Bank of America and Bank of America is getting the welcome to SBI. What they will tell you? What is this
Hmm.
nonsense? You are spoiling my brand. I am a Bank of America, not SBI. So how can we avoid this? I can ask my customer, sir, you can go to the manager2.java and you will find the SBI, replace that with the Bank of America. Your client is not technical. What he will do, by mistake, he can remove one double quotes also.
Right.
हो गया ना problem.
Yeah.
अब तो ये compile ही नहीं होगा. By the way, I'm speaking in Hindi. मैंने वासवी से नहीं पूछा. वासवी, where are you from, by the way?
I'm from Hyderabad.
You know Hindi?
I can understand. I can't speak.
Okay. So now what? See, you ask your client, go to the manager2.java, change the Java code, and went and he changed to Bank of America. But along with that, he removed one double quotes also. How much risky it is, isn't it?
Right.
Yeah, it's true.
We cannot ask our client and go and change the Java code. So rather than we are looking some alternative solution by which we can pick up the value from certain place, and there if user is making mistake also, I don't care, I don't mind it. And that's where
Yeah.
the properties file comes in picture. In every real-time project, you will be able to see under resources
Application.
folder application.properties file.
Right.
This properties file is always holding the value in a key value pair. Before equal to operator, it is a key, and after equal to operator, this is a value. Beauty of this properties file is if you type anything here, that will not spoil the application,
Oh, great.
because it is not going to be compiled. Properties file is very much flexible. Until or unless if you will not read the value of the key, it will be simply sitting here. So by mistake, if somebody is removing double quotes or not removing double quotes, I don't care at all. Now question is how we can read my greetings message. So I'm saying welcome to the world of spring, interesting or something like that. Or here you can write welcome to the Bank of America. Bank of America. This is for Bank of America. Same properties will be provided to each bank. Now I will simply tell, sir, you can go to the application or properties. You will see bank name. You change whatever you want. Whatever welcome message you want to type, you type whatever. I'm not going to stop you. My application will read this value automatically from this properties file and display over your website. If you want to write welcome to Bank of America, fine. You want to type some another message, you do so. No problem at all. Okay, so you understood
Great.
the properties file uses. Why we need
Yes.
properties file? Because it's not going to give any compile time error. Now,
Correct.
how we can read this? Spring is providing you a very simple and pretty way to read that. Look at this property config. You just need to put one more annotation called at the rate of property source.
Okay.
And whatever your properties file name is there, you just put that properties file here.
Okay.
That's all. Now, you want to read the value, there is a separate annotation called at the rate of value.
Okay.
Whatever key you have, you put that key here. Look at this. Only the syntax you have to remember. Dollar, angular braces open and close. Under that, it should be the exactly key, whatever key you have mentioned under your properties file. So property config is now creating a bean of a string class, okay? Or you can see that I'm reading the hello again, all these things. And under my manager2.class, when I say hello, I will be going to get the message from Welcome to Bank of America. How? Hello object bean is created here. Can you see that?
Great.
Yeah.
The bean, yes. So the moment I'm creating a bean, I'm returning the greeting. But this greeting value from where I'm getting? From properties file. This is how I'm getting the greeting value. So the moment this application will run, automatically Spring will go to the properties file, which you have mentioned here. It will check where is the key for greetings. It found the greetings key. What is the value for that? Bank of America. It will come to that and it will set the value to greeting to a welcome to Bank of America. Now I'm simply returning this greetings. So whoever is calling this get greetings method or whoever is creating the bean, he is simply going to print the message which your get bean method is returning. Welcome to Bank of America. Make sense or not? Similarly for user ID, for user object creation under the property config, I am just setting the value ID, but this ID value from where we are getting? From the properties file. So manager class, if you run and call get ID method, you are going to get the ID as 100, which is same as the application dot properties.
Properties.
So in high level, you just need to understand for using the property source, give your properties file name, not necessarily always application dot properties. You can give any name and add the rate of value to read the value. That's all.
Right.
Your application becomes now dynamic. Whatever you want, you can do that.
Yeah.
Okay. The same
Yeah.
example will be available under my gate. So if you go to the Spring IOC, under Spring IOC, you will be getting the first example, that is annotation test, if I'm not wrong. Yes, under annotation test, you have the complete example which we have discussed right now related to import, beans, everything, and you can run the manager class. Here is the app config, db config, property config, everything is there. If you
Okay.
want, I can directly point you to that location under the Zoom part. The timer has been started. Okay, so any question, guys? Any doubts so far?
And the previous program that you actually mentioned, it is actually in which location on the Git? The previous
It
program.
the previous
No,
you just
yes.
hear itself. See, hello
I think it's
IOC Maven.
hello. Yeah, hello. Yes. Okay. Because
Okay.
yeah, yesterday I was searching for it. I just got confused.
The last class I given you this morning batch. No, it is almost in the down.
Morning,
See,
bye. Yeah. Yeah.
it is here. So everything you just need to what you need to do. You just go to Spring IOC and
Okay.
code, download zip, or you can clone it. If you know how to operate the Git, you can clone it.
Yeah.
If you don't know how to do that, then you can download the zip. It will download the whole examples in your directory.
Okay.
Or if you want to refer from here itself and work by yourself, that also you can do. This will
Yeah.
be accessible for you forever. I keep on
Yeah.
adding the new concept here. So wherever you found that you need to brush up yourself, what are the examples for tight coupling? What is the example of the scope of a bean? What is the life cycle? Everything you can get from here.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
very good. Under user.java, we have a two annotation. One annotation is for, this is called life cycle, guys. Try understanding this.
Yeah.
Small example, post construct and pre-construct. App config is just creating a user class object and manager class is just using the U1 class object. Let's run this program and see what's happening. Init. So if you look at our user.java, if you want to initialize something before your object created, or I mean after object created, many times we have a requirement that once object is created, then set this particular property into that object. But making sure once object is created, then only that time you can use this annotation. at the rate of post construct. This is known as life cycle of a method. And whenever you want to destroy it, so whenever you want to do some fancy stuff while your JVM is closing, that time you
Yeah.
can call the destroy method. Whatever cleanup activity you want to do, you can put under this at the rate of pre-destroy.
Right.
And probably for that, context dot close, or what is the method name by which you can close the or clear the containers. So I will tell you later, but don't worry.
Okay.
But yes,
Okay.
some cleanup activity is supposed to be done with the help of this destroy wala part. So this is the two method. Method name you can type anything. There is no problem. ABC XYZ. But this annotation is sometimes useful when you are working on a Spring project and you want to make sure that after object creation, I want to do some fancy stuff. Your business need that.
Right.
So that time you can write your logic under this methods, which will perform, making sure that object is created, then only I will be using that. Understood or not? So this is
Yes.
also under the user.java.
Yeah.
You can notice that.
Okay.
So that's all about the today class. I'll see you tomorrow. Okay.
Yeah, sure.
Just practice
Okay.
it
Thank you.
and let me know the any doubt and question. Thank you guys. Have a good day. Bye
Yes.
bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Teacher. Bye bye.